Even minutes. That was all it took to turn a routine afternoon into a moment that would change 3 lives forever. A crowded upscale shopping plaza, a single parking space, and a woman who refused to explain her worth to strangers. What happened next would leave an entire crowd speechless. The afternoon sun reflected off the polished windows of the luxury boutiques as Amara Cole stepped out of her midnight blue sedan. Calm, composed, focused. She had built one of the fastest-growing tech logistics companies in the region. A self-made billionaire who preferred quiet entrances over grand announcements. She had just returned from a long investor meeting. All she wanted was 10 minutes inside the pharmacy before heading to the airport, but as she closed her car door, a sharp voice cut through the air. That's our spot. A well-dressed couple stood behind her, frustration written across their faces. They had been circling the lot. They believed the space belonged to them because they had seen it first. Amara turned politely. There wasn't a reserved sign, she said evenly. The husband stepped closer, his tone dripping with disbelief. People like you shouldn't be parking here. The words hung heavy. Several shoppers slowed their steps. Amara didn't flinch. She had heard that tone before. The kind that assumes. The kind that reduces. The wife crossed her arms. Do you even know what this area costs? These stores aren't for everyone. Amara's expression remained calm, but her eyes sharpened. I'm aware, she replied quietly. The husband laughed, shaking his head. Sure you are. Phones began to rise. Whispers spread. What the couple didn't know was that the building they were standing in front of was partially owned by Amara's investment group. What they didn't know was that she had quietly funded scholarships, small businesses, and even the renovation of this very plaza, but she said nothing. Instead, she took out her phone. 7 minutes. That's how long it would take for the entire atmosphere to shift. The tension thickened as the couple grew louder. What started as frustration was now turning into public humiliation. You're blocking us, the wife insisted. Move your car. Amara glanced at her watch. Time. She had a board call in less than an hour. I parked legally, she replied. The husband scoffed. This is unbelievable. A small crowd formed. Some uncomfortable, some curious, some quietly recording. Amara wasn't new to confrontation. She had built her company from a 2-person startup to a global operation. She had faced investors who doubted her, competitors who tried to push her out, media outlets that questioned how she rose so quickly. But this moment wasn't about business. It was about perception. The wife leaned closer, lowering her voice but not enough. You don't belong here. Amara held her gaze, controlled, unshaken. I belong anywhere I choose to be, she said softly. That's when a black SUV pulled into the lot, then another. Security stepped out first. The plaza manager followed, walking briskly toward Amara. The crowd grew silent. The manager's face shifted from concern to immediate recognition. Miss Cole, he said respectfully, we weren't expecting you today. The husband blinked. The wife's arms slowly dropped. Amara nodded. It's just leaving. Security positioned themselves discreetly nearby, not aggressive, just present. The manager turned to the couple. Is there a problem? Suddenly, the confidence drained from their faces. The husband cleared his throat. We thought this was our space. Manager's tone was polite but firm. All spaces here are public. However, this property is managed by Cole Urban Holdings. The wife's eyes widened. Amara adjusted her bag on her shoulder. She hadn't called security to intimidate anyone. It simply responded to a routine check-in message from her operations team. 7 minutes. That's all it took for assumptions to collapse. But she wasn't done. The crowd waited, sensing something bigger than a parking dispute had just unfolded. Amara looked at the couple, not with anger, but with clarity. You never asked who I was, she said calmly. You decided. No yelling, no insults, just truth. The wife swallowed hard. We didn't mean, but you did, Amara replied gently. Silence stretched. She turned to the manager. Let's make sure signage is clearer, she said. No one should feel like they have to prove they belong. The statement wasn't just about parking. It was about dignity. The husband looked at the ground. The wife's face flushed with embarrassment. A young woman in the crowd stepped forward. Thank you, she whispered to Amara. Amara gave her a small smile. Power, she knew, wasn't about dominance. It was about composure. She could have demanded an apology. She could have escalated. She could have embarrassed them publicly. Instead, she chose grace. As she walked toward the waiting SUV, the same phones that had recorded confrontation now captured something else. Restraint, strength, presence. The couple stood frozen, replaying their words in their minds. 7 minutes earlier, they had been certain of their assumptions. 7 minutes later, they were questioning everything. Amara entered the vehicle, calm as ever. The lesson wasn't loud. It was lasting, and sometimes, the most powerful response isn't proving your worth. It's knowing you never had to.